We are back here. We've just started the show, and already we've got a tag team in studio. Our regular guest, one of the most impressive, courageous reporters out there, John Solomon, who has done some incredible writing on a story that should truly unnerve all Americans. I don't care what political party you're in, but if they can do this to a former governor, in this case it's Eric Greitens of Missouri, a SEAL, combat veteran, they can do it to you. So welcome, John. Welcome, Eric.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Good to be here.
Now, you, John, let's just make sure people know the context. You have your brand. Can I call it a news agency?
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yes.
I've got a buddy who has a news agency. I just wanted to say
I don't think you say that about the New York Times, but you can say it about Just the News. Yeah, absolutely.
Just the News, justthenews.com. It's not just John Solomon. He's the new Randolph Hearst. He is now a media mogul. He will be played by somebody of the heft of, who played Hearst?
Jeez. I don't know.
It wasn't. We need a Brando-esque individual to play this.
You're going to want to talk to my wife before you do any typecasting. Yeah, just be careful.
I'll talk to the boss. I'll talk to the boss. It's Just the News, and you've got a podcast.
We do.
You've just had this gentleman interviewed in your new offices in
fantastic.
DC.
Yeah,
we're going to get you to give us the inside dope, Governor.
You bet.
But tell us just the kernel, the beginnings of this story. What is the need to know basics of all this?
Thanks to all of your good work. Everybody knows the story of what happened to Donald Trump now. The FBI weaponized, takes him out. Turns out that none of it was true, and it goes in reversal after 2.5 years of political damage. Well, at the essence, that was tactics. That weaponization of law enforcement got exported out of Washington, transplanted into the America's heartland, into Missouri, and used against Governor Greitens. They write an indictment before they have a complainant. They then go solicit the complainant to fill in the blanks in the indictment. They file the indictment alleging that he took a picture and tried to extort a girlfriend. And at the end of the day, they didn't have the picture. They didn't have the extortion. They had nothing. And yet they brought a charge against this man, allowed it to get right to the doorstep of the trial, and then withdrew the case. By that time, the governor's reputation was so damaged, he ended up resigning. And if that can happen to one of the most powerful men in Missouri, it could happen to any one of us in America. That's what this is about.
Let me ask you the cynical swamp question, Governor. Who did you piss off?
Well, I'll tell you, we pissed off a bunch of people. We pissed off a bunch of people because, look, I came into office as a conservative outsider, and they saw me as a threat.
It's that word outsider, isn't it, John?
Yeah.
Yes. If you're Donald Trump, if you're Eric Greitens, that's the threat.
They'll get along with Republicans who are willing to go along to play along, but I came in as a conservative outsider, and what shocked everybody is that in office, we did everything we promised we were going to do.
Another connection?
We killed a politician's pay raise. We slammed shut the revolving door between lobbyists and the executive branch. We banned all gifts from lobbyists. We also, we also killed this corrupt tax credit program.
You can tell he's a SEAL. He's saying killed, crushed, killed, crushed. It's just like, okay, go ahead.
These are the verbs. But we got rid of this corrupt tax credit program, which had stolen $1.3 billion from the people of Missouri.
Explain what this program.
Decade. So it was a program that sounds good, the low-income housing tax credit program. But what actually happened was that every year, $130 million of taxpayer money would go out the door, and only 42 cents of every dollar would actually go into low-income housing. So you had over the last decade $760 million of money that's going into the pockets of insiders, going into the pockets of lobbyists. And when we came in, we took it to zero.
Wow.
That upset everybody. The other thing that we did that really upset people was that you'll remember, and all of your listeners will remember, that Ferguson, Missouri was the home, the birthplace of the anti-police movement in America.
It was.
And when I came into office, I was very clear. We're going to stand up for our police officers. We're going to have their backs. And when things get difficult, when things get hard and the media comes after them, we're going to go out in front. We're going to be there to support our police officers. And we had an incident in Missouri where we had a white police officer who killed an African-American man on duty. And once again, we had national activists flooding the state, and they promised that they were going to burn the city down, that people wouldn't even remember Ferguson. And I went out and I said, look, Everyone has constitutional rights, and we're going to protect everyone's right to freedom of speech. We're going to protect everyone's right to freedom of protest, freedom of assembly. But I also said, throwing a brick through a window is not free speech.
Right.
No burning, no looting. You attack a police officer, you're going to go to prison. And what happened was the cops did a great job. They protected people's rights. We put an end to any attempt at looting, at burning. They didn't get their show, and that upset George Soros, and it upset a George Soros-funded prosecutor in St. Louis.
He said the magic words. Media Matters, are you typing? Are you typing? We mentioned the word of the man behind the curtain. So how long were you in office before this false accusation was made?
I was in office for 1 year.
Okay.
1 year. January 2017, we came into office, and I think what they thought was that I was going to come into office and I was going to do what everybody did, was that I was just going to become part of the swamp. Mm-hmm. But after a year, they saw that we were doing
keeping
what
the promises.
we said we were we're keeping our promises, and we were fighting for the people. And this terrified them because we had tremendous popularity with the people. So they looked forward and they said, "Oh my God, for the next 7 years, we might not be able to dig into people's pockets and steal from them. For the next 7 years, this guy's going to support the police."
So this man has to be kneecapped.
Yes.
It's just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to continue the discussion here on America First with John Solomon and also the former 56th governor of Missouri, Eric Greitens. If you're enjoying the show, you know what to do. Join our exclusive subscription service, Gorka's Cabinet, today. Go to sebgorka.com, SEBGORKA, sebgorka.com. Click the Gorka's Cabinet and join our team today. This show, all 3 hours without the commercial breaks, and so much more just for you.
With breaking news, here's Sebastian Gorka.
Yes, indeed. Mitt Romney, Pierre Delecto, the man who is a Democrat, was telling us he's not going to vote on the Homeland Security Committee for subpoenas. They're not going to investigate Hunter Biden. But, well, we have a news agency mogul in our studio who says, breaking news. John, what's the latest?
We really do. So I know this won't surprise any Republican who watched all the 2012 flip-flops that Romney did. But Mitt Romney now is for the subpoena he was against yesterday, which is good because if you think about it, just a few months ago, he was for witnesses against Donald Trump's impeachment.
Yes.
But then somehow became against them if they were for Biden. But he came around today thanks to a deal with Senator Ron Johnson. So we will probably see a subpoena voted out next Wednesday.
This is really important because if he hadn't voted for it, it would have been a 7-7 tie in that committee.
Yep.
But this isn't the first time he's flip-flopped.
No. I mean, we can go through. Remember, he was an independent during the Reagan years until Reagan became his favorite after he changed parties. He was for abortion, then against it. We can go through guns. I mean, there's I think PolitiFact has like 19 examples of Romney's famous flip-flops.
The man with no moral compass. Zero, none, just a vacuum. We are in studio with John Solomon, the former governor of Missouri. It is Eric Greitens who is with us. We're going through this unbelievably disturbing story. So you made a promise. You're an outsider. You're a conservative. You're getting stuff done. The people of the state love it. And then they realize they had to take you out. You mentioned Voldemort. You mentioned George Soros. So walk us through what happened to you after your year in office. What is the accusation? What does it result in happening to you? And what's the final eventual upshot?
Well, so Kim Gardner was funded by George Soros.
And who's Kim Gardner?
And Kim Gardner was the prosecutor who charged me falsely for crimes with no evidence.
Now, I'm going to interrupt you here for a second.
Please.
This is the new tactic of the left. This is a new tactic of George Soros and his foundations. And if you don't believe us, do a little bit of homework and you'll see it. Instead of nationally spending a lot of money, he's gone local, he's gone state, he's gone county to fund hard left candidates, especially in the judicial system. This is what we're talking about. So you're accused with no evidence.
I'm accused with no evidence. In fact, one of Kim Gardner, the Soros-backed prosecutor's attorneys, goes in front of the judge and says, "We charged him for a crime so that we could look for evidence."
Is that on the record?
It's on the record. It is in. I mean, one of the incredible things.
That's Stalin. That's Leventi Beria. Show me the man, I'll show you the crime.
Show me the man, I'll show you the crime.
That's stunning.
It is exactly what they are doing. And I mean, one of the things that I'm grateful for that John has done in digging into the story is that when folks go out to justthenews.com, you can click on the dig in section, and John has all of the court transcripts are right there. So you can go out to justthenews.com.
What did I tell you when I interviewed you last week?
You said that would be
the
important.
dig-in section is going to be a big deal.
Well,
yes. And I got to tell you, people in Missouri are looking at this, and they're literally calling us and like, how is it possible that no one in the media actually looked at and read these documents where this criminal conduct on the part of the prosecutor was actually all revealed, all evident.
Well, this is my question to you. When something like that is said, can't you just have the thing thrown out of the court by saying, excuse me, this is the opposite of our judicial system in the Western civilization?
Well, this is one of the things that was so scary about this process for so many people, and should scare all of your listeners, is that you have now a situation in the United States of America where I'm an example of it. Someone can charge you for a crime with no evidence, admit in court that they have no evidence, and the case keeps on proceeding. And while it's going, keep in mind, she's charging me with taxpayer money.
Yeah.
But I have to pay for every penny of this myself.
Right.
And this is part of what they do. They attack you. They attack your family. They drag your reputation through the mud. They try to bankrupt you
I've
personally.
Been there. I've been there.
And you see what they do. And it's why, it's so important for people to recognize, and so many people do now after the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, this is the left's playbook. This is what they do to take out conservative outsiders who represent a threat.
It's actually one of the reasons I wrote The War for America's Soul, to explain this isn't just a function of 8 years of Obama. This isn't just George Soros. This is 80 years in the planning. If you haven't read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, if you haven't seen the concept of politics of personal destruction, you don't understand what John's writing about. You don't understand what Eric and myself and the president live every single day. This is their rule book. They can't win you on a fair battlefield. Therefore, they try to destroy you. More with the former governor and with John Solomon in a moment. I'm Sebastian Gorka. This is America First.
The antidote to fake news. America First.
What are you doing later this year? What are your plans before Christmas? Do you want to go on vacation with me? Come on, let's do it. We're going to Israel. We're going to take Mike Lindell with us, my guest host, Mr. My Pillow, and we're going to have the trip of the lifetime. You know what it's like. It's not about accumulating stuff. It's about experiences. It's about memories. This is going to be like no other trip. We're going to go to 40 different sites of historic, cultural, and religious significance, from the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. We're going to go to Tel Aviv, get the Sea of Galilee, and we're going to have fun as we do it. Go to my website and click on the Stand with Israel 2020 tour and join us December 2nd to 11th for the trip of a lifetime. SebGorka.com, SEBGORKA, SebGorka.com, and the Stand with Israel 2020 tour. Talking about great listeners, I need to do this because I forgot to do so. Tim, who made a very nice donation to the Alliance Defending Freedom, the good guys who are fighting for your rights in the Supreme Court. He won lunch with me today, and he came from the great state of Pennsylvania bearing gifts. And he knows, he said, I know you're not a sports guy. I did judo and tennis and rugby. That's about it. But what did I get from Tim? It is a Steelers jersey that says Gorka 45. And guess who I worked for? Oh, yes, the 45th president. We love it, Tim. You are a dude. Safe travels back to Pennsylvania, and I will be wearing my jersey this weekend. We are back in studio with a regular guest, one of our favorites on America First, John Solomon, and a special guest, former Governor Eric Greitens. We started with the beginning of this outrageous story. You're a year in, you're getting stuff done as the new governor, you're an outsider, you're a threat to the swamp, not in D.C., but there in Missouri. You get accused falsely, no evidence. John, run us through what happens next.
It's a remarkable turn of events between March and May of 2018 as the governor's defense lawyers start to ask, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? And they're told there's no videotape. Trust us.
So the accusation is there's some photograph, and then you extorted a woman or something?
Right. Yeah.
Right. But there's no evidence.
Right. They don't have the photograph, it turns out. They don't have any evidence that the photograph was ever transmitted. They don't have any evidence as extortion. But what they do have that they've hid from the court, hid from the governor's defense team, they have a videotape deposition in which the woman, the accuser, says, I may have dreamed this all up.
Hang on.
I'm not making it up. Yeah.
So against all rules of disclosure,
Yes.
Right.
there is the best exculpatory evidence you could imagine.
That's right.
Where the accuser said, maybe I made this up.
Yep.
And it's not given to you?
It's not given to us, and this is something that they did the entire time. They made up evidence, so they made up false quotations. So they put into their reports things that the woman never said, and then they hid things that proved that I was innocent.
What is the judge doing in the middle of all this?
Well, unfortunately, the judge just let this keep rolling, and it just kept rolling and rolling and rolling. And, what's important for your listeners to keep in mind and to remember is that each day that this goes on, they're ripping your reputation apart. They're trying to bankrupt your family. And there's just all of this like pain and hardship. And the fake news is magnifying all of the allegations. And we literally don't have people in the state, journalists who are saying, hold on a second. How could you charge someone for a crime with no evidence?
Well, this is my next question. So you've done the real work here, John. You've written multiple pieces. You've provided the evidence. You've provided the first primary sources. You've now got justthenews.com. Yesterday you did a long interview with the governor.
Yes.
Can I ask you, who else wrote the truth in the legacy media?
Very hard to find. There was a former prosecutor in Kim Gardner's office who wrote an op-ed very early on.
An op-ed. I don't want to talk about op-eds.
That's it.
I'm talking about real investigative journalism.
We couldn't find any evidence of this case turning until the very last minute when, of course, the prosecutor, now being said, you're going to become a witness. We have questions about your conduct. You're going to have to testify. She drops the charges against the governor. That's the first time the media goes, well, maybe there's something here. It's probably in the comparison moment of the Russia-Trump collusion. It's when we found the text messages between Strzok and Page, like, wait a second, something else is going on here, right?
Insurance policies.
Now, let's think how far this has evolved over the last 2 years. In Missouri, they've done something that the Justice Department still hasn't done here. They've actually held someone accountable for what happened to the governor, a former FBI agent, William Tisby, the chief investigator, person who is accused of lying, falsifying.
Hang on. So if I remember well, he was not with the FBI. He was an investigator.
He was a retired
FBI guy who was used as an investigator.
That's right.
And then what did they find out about him?
He is charged with 6 counts of perjury and 1 count of tampering with evidence. And he withheld the videotape that would have given the governor the exculpatory evidence. He made numerous false statements, including with Kim Gardner, his boss, asking the questions. They asked him, did you have a videotape? No, there's no videotape. Kim Gardner's office, according to Tisby's indictments, had the videotape right in their office. They were playing keep away. Does that sound familiar, like something we heard in the Trump case? The parallels here. Now, this month, he's going to go to trial. This will be the ultimate decision of whether someone gets punished for carrying out a political attack using false evidence.
So it's a horror story, but at least it looks as if some justice has been done. In the last 60 seconds we have with you in this segment, Governor, is it enough? What happened to you?
Well, look, it's not just about what happened to me. It's also what happened to the people of Missouri.
But let's start with you.
Yeah.
What happened to you as a result?
Well, for me, this was horrifically painful, right? This was, a vicious set of attacks. It was directed against me, directed against my family, and directed against my team. All of these people around us who also have to answer to subpoenas and start paying lawyers. There's a tremendous amount of pain that actually comes as a result of this. And yes, I want to see justice done.
One of our faithful listeners has just texted us on our text line 3 words with 3 exclamation marks. Sue, sue, sue. And she's not talking about the short for Susan. Are you going to sue people, Governor?
That's one of the things we're looking at very seriously. We want this criminal prosecution of the investigator to proceed. Kim Gardner herself, the Soros-funded prosecutor, is under criminal investigation herself. And in this case, you had $120,000 in cash paid to people who made false accusations. They're also looking at the people who paid the cash.
Wow. Are we in America?
Right.
I'm just going to let that question float out there. We're going to continue. This hour is sped by. We've got a short segment left. I'm Sebastian Gorka, former strategist to President Trump, telling you what needs to be told about the state of things in this nation, because you need to know it. I'm Sebastian Gorka. This is America First.
Portions of America First are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
He's John Solomon. Follow him, J. Solomon Reports, on Twitter. His new news agency, justthenews.com. Just the facts, ma'am. You remember that. And our guest in studio, the former governor of Missouri, Eric Greitens, Navy SEAL combat veteran. Follow him right now, Eric, Greitens, Eric Greitens. 2 questions left for you, gentlemen. I'm going to go back to the boogeyman. George Soros, this is a real thing, right? The connections to people being elected.
Listen, there's no evidence that George Soros did the prosecution himself. He didn't have to. Yeah. And listen, with Soros...
Funding organizations, foundations, prosecutors running.
A big part of his career has been funding efforts in Europe to get rid of oligarchs. But what are we turning America into? We have these large oligarchs now, the Bloombergs, the Soroses. They're able to fund so much influence that they can get exactly what they want without even asking for it anymore. This is really a story of the consequence of how much money comes into the system. A bought and paid for prosecutor does this to the American public.
And doing it at the state and local level. It's just so smart. Big question for you, personal question, Eric. You've, as a SEAL, you've been there. You've seen it. You've really lived. You've seen life and death. What does this mean to you after what you've been through, what your family's been through? Are you cowed? Are you going to be less of a public figure? What is your message to the American people after your experience as the governor?
Well, I'd say 3 things. Number 1 is that you have to have faith. Eventually, the truth does come to light.
Okay.
And, I mentioned with John when we were on his podcast the other day, you get this big wave of lies, this huge wave, and it is powerful. It picks up everything in its path, and it throws and it tumbles, but eventually that wave does crash on the rock of the facts. And that rock is there, and that solidity is there. So you have to have faith. The other thing I would say is that, it's made me that much more determined to fight.
Wow.
And it's made me that much more determined. We are in a fight, and we have to decide. I've got 2 young boys, 3 and 5 years old. We have to decide what kind of country we're going to leave for them. And it's one of the reasons why people have to get out this year. They have to get out. They have to be active, engaged. We have to reelect the president. We have to stand up to the left. People have to stand up and fight. This is our country. And if you don't, if people look the other way, this is what the left will do.
What a message. We don't rehearse any of this stuff. That's really powerful. The message is very clear from the former governor. And it's really our tagline at America First. Never give up, never give in, never let them break you. The truth is on our side. And especially when we've got people like John Solomon, whose life career is built on a commitment to the truth. God bless you both, gentlemen. The door is always open to you here at America First.
Thank you.
I know this is going to be one of our most popular videos. We're going to post it momentarily on YouTube. It's called justthenews.com, and our guest has been Governor Eric Greitens. Next, Congressman Louis Gohmert and Jim Carafano.